All right. So I decided, with all this safer at home stuff and the Corona 19, that I would take a minute, a couple of minutes actually. So, as some of you know and some of you don't, I have a huge collection of movies, a lot of which I have never seen before. Not a lot of which, well, I've got every other day so far since I've been stuck in my house, basically. I've been watching movies off of that shelf that I've never seen. I've got 24 right now and another less than 50 to go. It's it's a lot. So I've decided to take a little bit and just go over the 24 movies I've watched in the last 7 days. So this is in the exact order I watched them in because for some reason I remembered the order I watched 24 movies in. So here we go. The movie I started with first was Under Siege, the Steven Seagal classic. One moment, I'm going to fix my blinds. This is what happens when you film in front of a window and you're doing it live. All right, sorry about that. Sorry about that. All right, so we got Steven Seagal in Under Siege. I did not fix the glare that much, but we'll work through it. So, Under Siege. I actually liked it. Steven Seagal's not great in this movie, but Tommy Lee Jones, Gary Busey, they do such a good job in this film. It's definitely, if you've never seen it, check it out. It's worth watching. It's fun. It's Seagal. So, it is what it is. After that, I checked out the movie Rock and Rolla. This is a Guy Ritchie film. It kind of falls in that same category of Snatch and The Gentleman, two of Guy Ritchie's films I've already seen, where it's got this huge, illustrious cast and a bunch of storylines, some of which really don't come together until the last minutes. It seems like he wanted to make a sequel to this, so there are a couple threads left open on this, but it's a pretty good movie. I enjoyed Rock and Rolla. I enjoy Snatch. I enjoy The Gentleman. Guy Ritchie can make very good films. So if you've never seen Rock and Rolla, check it out. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the time I spent with it. After that, I went a little weird because, sometimes you just got to watch a Nicolas Cage movie, and I picked Drive Angry. So what's a better way to spend an hour and a half of your life than watching Nicolas Cage as a dead man escaping hell with God's own gun to save his grandchild from a bunch of Satanists. That's what the movie's about. It is so good. I enjoyed this movie. It's not good in the sense of that it was such an awesome movie. It's good in the sense that it's so weird and it's so well done, and it just accepts that it's over the top and weird that it just gets you there. Drive Angry. It's definitely worth checking out. If you've never seen it before, it's a good Nicolas Cage performance. After that, I've got Inside Man, Most Wanted. If you liked the movie Inside Man by Spike Lee, back from 2006, I believe, well then, Inside Man, Most Wanted, it's basically the same thing. It's a sequel, but who really cares? We didn't need a sequel. No one asked for a sequel. I mean, it has none of the actors from the original movie in it, not a single damn one of them. It all stars new people kind of doing the same thing. There's a new heist going on, but it's not really a heist, and it's not bad. It's a rehash of the original. So if you like the original, check it out. It's not as good, but it's definitely a good rehash. Or just watch the original. Inside Man is still a great film, one of my top 100. I love that movie. Inside Man, Most Wanted, not as much. All right. Next up, Hulk. I have never actually seen the Ang Lee Hulk movie. So I decided I would check it out. So it sucks. Most people know that, though. Most people know Ang Lee's Hulk is bad. It's a bad movie. And it is. It just is a bad movie. The effects were weird. The story is incomprehensible at times. It's just not any good. I didn't care for it. It was 2 hours and 18 minutes of my life that I felt like I wasted. It's like the only time I've wasted time in these 24 movies. I got through 4 of them I actually enjoyed, and before I hit the first piece of trash. So, Hulk, bad. Rounding out the first day of me watching movies, like I said, I did this every other day to create 24 movies, so it is 6 movies a day. I watched Super. This is a film by none other than James Gunn. Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn, starring Rainn Wilson, Liv Tyler, Kevin Bacon, Ellen Page, Nathan Fillion. This is a pretty decent movie. Rainn Wilson is an average, everyday guy who decides to become a superhero to save his wife, Liv Tyler, from an evil drug dealer, Kevin Bacon. It is a fun movie. It's definitely got James Gunn's touch in it. Nathan Fillion plays a biblical superhero from a TV show, which is cool. And this also stars James Gunn's extended universe of superhero films because he's kind of the Batman of that universe. And then you have Brightburn, which I actually saw before this. Brightburn's not bad. If you've never seen it, check out Brightburn. It's an interesting movie, but Super is good too. I liked Super. I thought it was definitely worth the time. It's a fun movie, and it definitely feels like a James Gunn film. All right, so moving on. The second day I did this, I started with the movie Don Verdean. It's a DVD copy. It's the only DVD I actually watched out of this whole thing because I found it cheap. I wanted to watch it, and I wasn't going to pay more for a Blu-ray when I could buy this one for like $1, I think is what I paid for it. It's not worth $1. This has got a great cast. Sam Rockwell, Amy Ryan, Will Forte, and Danny McBride all star in this movie. So it's got a good cast. And Will Forte is hilarious in this movie. I will start with that. Will Forte is hilarious in this film. Beyond that, there's nothing else good about this film. The acting isn't bad. No one does a bad job in it. It's just basically it's a story of a guy named Dan Verdean who is an archaeologist who finds Christian artifacts. He's down on his luck, so he fakes an artifact, and he has to go through his life being a guy who fakes an artifact find. It's not interesting. It's an hour and a half, but I don't recommend it. It's not worth the time. Don't check it out. Dan Verdean is just not good. Next up, I watched a classic with King Kong, the original monkey movie. Why King Kong, you ask? Because I've never seen King Kong, and I've wanted to. I also have King Kong versus Godzilla over on the shelf. I just haven't gotten. That's not in this pile. I haven't gotten to that one yet. But I watched King Kong. I liked it. I get why this is a classic. This was so good and so well done. You got the big monkey beating things up. It was a good time. I liked it. It's definitely one of those classics I really enjoyed. I've seen a lot of the old classics now, and some of them were really good. Some of them were not as good. And that was just me speaking. Like, they're classics for a reason. They hold up. A lot of people like them. King Kong, I highly recommend. If you've never seen the big ape rampage through New York and them fighting through his jungle, check it out. It's definitely worth it. I don't know how good the Peter Jackson version is. I have never seen it. This was the first exposure to this type of King Kong. The only other one I've seen is Kong Skull Island. But yeah, I'm excited for Godzilla vs. Kong. Hopefully, we will be out of safety at home and back to normal by the time that movie comes out, so we can check it out. After King Kong, I moved on to a movie called The Ledge. This is another Liv Tyler movie. This is the third Liv Tyler movie out of this stack of films. And I think it's the last. I think this is the last Liv Tyler movie. But it also stars Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy, Patrick Wilson, and Terrence Howard. Basically, it's about a dude who's standing on a ledge because he's forced there, because he's having an affair with another guy's wife, and he forced him out on the ledge. It's not bad. I mean, it's not what I'm ever going to watch again. There's some subplots. It's not, the acting is good. It's a decent movie. If you find it on a streaming service, check it out. It's not one I would say run out and buy. I didn't pay that much for the copy I'm holding, so yay! All right, next I have Hereditary. I heard this was a really good movie. It was a good creepy movie, a good scary movie, and I was really interested in checking it out. I get why people say it's a really interesting movie, it's a really creepy movie, it's a really scary movie. It's not my kind of movie. It's just paced too slowly for me. And I don't mind, I don't need fast-paced, hard-hitting, bam, bam, bam. I mean, King Kong, not that fastly paced. It's a pretty slow-paced film. But I accepted that with King Kong, whereas here, I just expected a slightly faster pace and what was going on, and getting to the super creepy parts that I knew was coming because I had heard about this movie. I had actually seen a review on it from another review site, cinemassacre.com. They do great reviews. I do enjoy their stuff. But anyways, so we have this film, and I saw, and they really liked it, and I get it. I get why. I just didn't care for it. A lot of the stuff I've been told, like, well, that was such a funny scene, or that was such a horrible scene. I laughed at. Like, spoiler alert: the little girl gets decapitated by a phone pole. You then see her head sitting there, and it's got bugs all. I laughed. Most people were shocked by this. I laughed. So, and I was by myself. I wasn't trying to impress. I just laughed. I found it amusing. Maybe that says something about me. But Hereditary, it's not bad. Again, it's not what I'm going to watch again. But I mean, overall, if you want to watch something a little creepier, this might be right up your alley. Ex Machina is what followed that. This is the story of a Turing test, basically to find out if AI can come off as real, as human emotion. A man played by Domhnall Gleeson is brought in by Oscar Isaacs to experiment on to do this test with a AI he's built in a humanish body, and it's an interesting movie. I liked it. I liked Ex Machina. I thought it was very well done. I thought it had a great script, great plot. Definitely a recommend if you've never seen Ex Machina. I know it had some hype behind it when it first came out. I think most of that's died down now, but it's definitely worth checking out. I know the dude who made this now has a new series called Devs on FX. I've heard that's good as well. I haven't checked it out. But Ex Machina is worth watching. So rounding out day 2, so this is the 12th movie I'm going to talk about, Operation Dumbo Drop. Yes, I own a Blu-ray copy of Operation Dumbo Drop. And yes, I bought it without ever having seen Operation Dumbo Drop. So we got Danny Glover, Ray Liotta, and Dennis Leary play. This takes place during Vietnam. They play soldiers who are trying to bring an elephant to a village that holds strategic value to them because the elephant in that village has been slaughtered, and they use elephants. Basically, they worship them. They use them as large mass haulers, so they needed a new elephant. And it's just their trials and tribulations. It's not a bad movie. It's fun. It's amusing. It's a Disney film, so you can't get too angry at it. But it's not bad overall. Operation Dumbo Drop. It's a decent movie. All right. So day 3, the next 6 movies, and I'm breaking these up into the piles of what I'm planning on keeping and putting into my primary collection, and the pile of stuff that when we're allowed to go back out and do normal life, I'm going to be removing from my collection and selling to used shops. So right now that pile's not that big. This pile is going to be bigger. The keep pile is bigger overall. But next I have a movie called An Invisible Sign. This stars Jessica Alba. Basically, she's an awkward girl who loves numbers. Her father has some type of brain problem. They never explain what this problem is when she's young, and that makes her even more awkward. She ends up at 28, getting kicked out of her house. She has no college degree. This is going to become important. As she goes out into the world, she gets a job as a math teacher. She has no college degree, and she gets a job as a math teacher. This school does not do background checks. So she becomes a math teacher for an elementary school, only connects with the 3rd graders. She teaches all grades, only connects with the 3rd graders. And it's basically the story of her becoming not awkward and accepting that there's nothing she can do to really help her father and that she just needs to live a life. And it's got a lot of really weird moments and a lot of I got super frustrated with this movie just because of the weird leaps in logic that it makes, that it took away from the enjoyment. I mean, it's well acted. I'm not going to argue that. It's a well acted movie, but it's got too many crap like they didn't do background checks, so she became a math teacher. It has too much stuff like that. All right. After that, I watched one of the other classics I had on my shelf, Soylent Green, starring Charlton Heston. I liked it. I like Soylent Green. Now, I know most people know what the big turn is at the end of the movie, that, Soylent Green is people. It's not a spoiler. It's so made fun of. But I really like this movie. It's a good, well-done movie. It's not an action movie, and they made sure it wasn't by not doing any of the action movie tropes. Heston does a great job in this thing. I liked it. I think some of you out there might like it too. So if you've never seen Soylent Green, check it out. I enjoyed it. It takes place in 2022. So who knows with this pandemic, we might end up here. There's overpopulation going on, and food supply and water supply are low, so everything is rationed out. Soylent Green is the greatest food supply they have at the moment. And it's really about a dude gets murdered because he knows information and he can no longer be trusted with the information he has. And Charlton Heston is trying to uncover why he was murdered, and along the way, he discovers the truth about Soylent Green. It's a good movie. I liked it. It's definitely worth checking out. Next, I want to say this is the worst movie I've watched out of all 24 of these, but there is one from yesterday that beat this out. But I have Serenity. This is the version with Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway, not to be confused with Serenity based on the series Firefly. That movie I like. This movie is garbage. Um, it's hard to get into without spoiling the entire twist of this movie. And the only reason to watch this movie is for the twist, to see if you can figure it out before they get to it. I figured it out after one line of dialogue at about the 40-minute mark of this 2-hour movie. I figured out the twist. And then I was hoping there was another twist on top of the twist. There wasn't. It was just the one twist. The one twist is all that matters. Yeah, I did not care for this movie. The best summation I can give you: Matthew McConaughey's a fisherman on an island. His ex-girlfriend, who had his child, comes and tells him that she wants him to kill her husband. Really, that's the best I can, without really getting in depth and going insane about what I really think of this movie and going into huge plot details. Yeah, this was not good. So yeah, that was just not a good movie. Don't watch Serenity. Don't check it out. It's not worth it. Watch the version based on Firefly. Don't watch the Matthew McConaughey one. It is bad. People said it was bad, and they're absolutely right. It is bad. Sometimes bad movies can be good. That's just a bad movie that was bad. Next up, I have The Hollers. This is a family film, kind of on the same lines of like Eulogy and This Is Where I Leave You, where it's just a family coming together and dealing with life. This particular one is that the mother of the Hollers has brain cancer and is going in for surgery. Her son, played by John Krasinski, is about to have a child with Anna Kendrick, who they're not married, but they're going to have a child. And then they have another son played by Shelton Copley, who's gone through a divorce. He has 2 kids, and he's dealing with his mother's loss and the loss of his family through the means he has access to. It's not a bad movie. I enjoyed it. I laughed. It was a fun film. If you like family comedy, check out The Hollers. It's pretty good. After that, I watched Angel Has Fallen. I finally got around to watching the 3rd part in the Has Fallen series that goes along with Olympus and London. This is a little harder for me to speak on because it took me 4 hours to watch a 2-hour movie because I kept having things come up that I needed to take care of throughout this movie. And one of the things that came up was in the wrap up of everything, the happy ending moment. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. It was an interesting movie. If you've liked Angel Has Fallen, if you liked London Has Fallen, you liked Olympus Has Fallen, if you haven't checked this one out, do it. It's not bad. Gerard Butler is good in it. I can't argue with Gerard Butler being in that movie. It's not bad. It's OCD. It's a decent movie. Check it out. Ending day 3 of the last week, I have Blood Simple. This is the Coen brothers' first film, and it came out in 1984. So that's how long they've been making films. That's pretty cool. This is a hard one to come across. I looked it up on Amazon, and I only found the Criterion edition of this film. I didn't actually find this copy. So I don't know how prevalent it is. You can buy it in a big box set of Coen brothers films. That's the only other way I found it. This one I came across at a pawn shop. Anyways, basically it's the story of a woman who is leaving her husband for another man. The husband freaks out, hires a guy that kills them. The husband ends up dead, and it's an escalation story. It's good. It's definitely in that Coen brothers fashion. If you've seen stuff like Raising Arizona and Barton Fink, it's in that same kind of vein where it tells a story, but it's kind of disjointed at points. There's actually a huge 20-minute silence scene. It's a really interesting scene. I liked the scene. I've seen other movies with that same thing where that's really detracted me. But I like Blood Simple. It's a decent movie. If you like the Coen brothers, definitely check it out. It's not bad. It's not a bad film. All right, so that brings us to what I watched yesterday. These are the last 6 movies of this. And let's see what we got here. To start off with, one I'm really disappointed about. The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot. This is a Sam Elliott film. It's got a great title. I mean, that is a great freaking title. It's got great cover art. The poster itself is actually more like what was on the back of the box. So it's got great art. If I had seen this hanging up in a movie theater, I would have went and saw it, which would have been very disappointing because it's a very disappointing hour and a half. It does tell the story of a man who killed Hitler and then killed the Bigfoot. So, it's not false advertising. It is there. It's just the way they tell it. The Bigfoot thing doesn't even come in until halfway through the movie. And the first half of the movie is a lot of him, like, if I were to look at this movie case, and then we'd flash back to me watching the movie. That's kind of what it is. By the end of it, I was just making fun of it for my own amusement because it was all I could do. Sam Elliott's good in it. It's, for that outfit, if you like Sam Elliott, it's a good Sam Elliott movie. He does a good performance, but plot, everything else, I was really let down and disappointed by it. I'm not going to say this, Serenity is still a much worse movie than this. This was just disappointing because it wasn't done the way I would wanted a story like this to have been done. I honestly feel like the director, if he could have gotten the money, could have written 2 movies called The Man Who Killed Hitler and then did a sequel and then The Bigfoot, and told a much better story and a much more interesting story than trying to squeeze all of that into one film. All right. After that, I watched Immortal Beloved. I've seen Amadeus. I talked about Amadeus in my best Oscar films. I recently watched it. Amadeus. So it's the first time I watched that one. I knew Immortal Beloved because that one's about Amadeus Mozart. This one is Beethoven. And I'm like, well, I mean, I didn't think, because this is 94, that it's like a decade between these two films. So I didn't think this was a response film to Amadeus. I just feel like somebody wanted to make a movie about Beethoven. And put Gary Oldman as Beethoven. And Gary Oldman does a terrific job as Beethoven. It's a good movie. I liked it. It has a way more connection to Amadeus than I really thought in the way the story is structured than I was expecting. But it was a good way the story is structured. It is a flashback movie, just like The Man Who Killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot, except this was flashback done in the right way, where the narrative that creates the flashback is there to support the flashbacks, and the flashbacks aren't there to tell a completely separate story than the forward narration. So I liked it. It's the life of Beethoven. Basically, they took a letter that Beethoven actually wrote addressed to his immortal beloved. And they took that idea and ran with it. Like, who was his immortal beloved? So it's his assistant, after Beethoven has died, trying to figure this out, trying to answer that question of who was Beethoven's immortal beloved, because Beethoven kind of hated women. So the fact that he had an immortal beloved was an interesting idea to him. So he went out and tried to find her. And it's basically each woman he goes to tells their story of how they knew Beethoven, how they fell in love with Beethoven. And it just chronicles Beethoven's life. I got a little frustrated towards the end with the reveal because I didn't feel like they were getting to the point where they were going to go back, because they kept moving the story forward in time. But at some point you found out that his actual immortal beloved was well before any bits of this story. And they did get back to it. So that was nice. Because obviously the last woman he talks to is the immortal beloved. It wouldn't be a very good story if it wasn't that way. But yeah, I enjoyed it. If you've never seen Immortal Beloved, check it out. Check out Amadeus too. They're both really good movies. If you've got 5 hours to kill, which people probably do have 5 hours to kill right now, that might be a good way to kill it. Now is the worst movie I've seen. Out of all 24 of these, this is the worst. Again, I'm talking about the worst movie I've seen. It's hard to say what the best one was out of all of these because there's such a wide range. Bad is always easier to talk about than good. And the worst movie I've seen out of all of these is The Snowman, starring Michael Fassbender. I saw the trailer for this and went, that looks interesting. So I got a copy of it. Luckily, I paid $3 for this because it ain't worth $3. It ain't worth. This is a bad movie. I found out later that 15% of the script was never filmed. So they had 15% of the script they didn't use, that they couldn't use in this movie, and they tried to put together a coherent plot without it. Which didn't quite work out because there is a plot. It has a beginning, a middle, of an end, but it's not anyway the way you'd want to see it. There's some effects that are done very poorly for a movie that came out in 2017. They're just really bad. And it's not even like really difficult, like, ooh, CGI. It's ADRing, just adding someone's voice into a scene, was so bad that you could clearly tell the mouth movements of Val Kilmer, who is in this movie, is not the same as the voice that's coming out. And I know why that happened, but I think they could have done a better job getting it to look like it was still Val Kilmer doing it live and not doing the ADR after the fact. It wasn't fun. It wasn't interesting. It's not even a good mystery because they don't give any hints as to who it is. And if you're really paying attention, which somehow I was still really paying attention, you can figure it out fairly easily within the last. They have the big reveal of who the murderer is. But if you're paying attention, you probably figured it out at least 20 minutes before that. Basically, there are murders going on in Norway. I'm assuming they never actually state, other than the name of the city, who's trying to get the Winter Games there. But it's the 15th annual, so it's something completely different. It's not the Olympics. And there are murders going on, and snowmen are being left behind. And these aren't just new murders; these are murders that have been going on for years and years and years and years. There are a bunch of cold cases. It's not that interesting. Don't watch it. Firmly, do not watch The Snowman. All right, let's talk about Logans Run. Let's get off of bad and move on to something good. Logans Run, the last of the classics I watched, and I'm really because the next movie is also an older film, but it hasn't quite reached, I think, the classics level as this, Soylent Green, and King Kong have reached. So Logan's Run is about a futuristic society that lives in a dome that everyone dies at the age of 30. So I'd be dead. And plenty of people who would be watching this is dead. 30 is a weird age. And you have this thing in your palm that either is yellow for when you're young, green for when you're the middle age, so 20 to 30, so that middle ground, and then red in your in your late 20s, and then it starts to blink on your last day, meaning you have to go and try to get renewed, which is just dying. They just kill you. Logan is a Sandman who is tasked with killing runners, people who are not going to the official ceremony to try to renew themselves, extend their lives, or die. They're just running away, trying to extend their lives that way, and Sandman go after them to kill them. Logan finds an Egyptian Ankh, which turns out to mean sanctuary, and he is put on the task of finding sanctuary by having his last day happen. Even though he still has 4 years left before his 30th birthday, he is put on last day and is told to find the sanctuary and kill everyone there because there's 1,056 people who have successfully ran. Logan goes on this journey. He eventually finds his way outside. He picks up a female companion along the way because obviously a love interest, we need that. And he finds out the reality of the past to get us to where Logan's Run takes place. It's an interesting movie. I liked it. It's 2 hours. It holds your attention. I really enjoyed it. So if you've never seen Logan's Run, check it out. This was definitely, it is one of those classics that earned, its staple in history. It is such a good movie. All right. Next, I have The War of the Roses. This is a black comedy by Danny DeVito. He directed it. It stars him, Kathleen Turner, and Michael Douglas. It's a pretty funny movie. I really enjoyed watching it. Basically, we have a couple who have been married for 18 years. They decide to get a divorce, and both of them want the house. So they're both staying in the house, and they start one-upping each other with the cruelty they're doing to each other. Except, personally, I think Kathleen Turner is just slightly crueler than Michael Douglas is throughout the movie. It's a good black comedy. If you've never seen War of the Roses, check it out. It's definitely worth the watch. It's worth the time. And I liked it. I liked War of the Roses. All right, that brings us to the last movie, the 24th film out of all this. I'm not going to rank them. I'm just going over them. And that is Shrek the Musical. This is the stage version of Shrek, put on Blu-ray so you could watch it. It's got nice camera work in it. I liked it. I like musicals. As you can tell, I have a video all about talking about the live performances on DVD and Blu-ray that I have that I really enjoy. This would probably have made that cut had I watched it before yesterday. I liked it. It definitely tells a good story of Shrek. It's funny. It's relevant. I really like it. If you've never seen Shrek the Musical, check it out or just watch Shrek. Either one is a valid option. That was my phone. I meant to silence before I started this video. I thought I was going to get away with it. All right, so those are the movies I've watched over the last week that I had never seen before. Maybe next week I'll do this again and go over the next set that I watch, because I'm probably going to keep doing this because I still have nothing better to do with a lot of my time. I have a lot of hours to fill, not a lot of time to do it in. Tomorrow is the release of our regular video. It is starting franchise month, and we're going to be talking about the Universal horror monsters, the 8 prime ones in their first movies. So check that out tomorrow. If you want to leave me some comments, do so. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.